guessed it, I'm a former fat kid, which is why I decided to create the following project with most of the videos that you can find on my YouTube channel. I'm talking about the ones on Tkinter Basics projects and on Python Basics inside of this channel, where I teach pretty much widgets, their reaction, and also file manipulation. And if you compile everything together, you will pretty much get a project that can be just like this one. This is basically a restaurant order tracker where I have the binary logo right here, which is a made-up restaurant by myself. And on your menu, you are able to display every dish that you want to add into your order. So if I want to add this burger inside of here, I can actually add it into a transaction that calculates the full total. The program also generates a very random order ID that you can track later on in order to see how much your restaurant is making money. So if I add 2 salmons over here, they're gonna show up and everything is gonna update as I go on. So you can also decide to take away an order in the case that you make a mistake. The display buttons right here will show you what you can display for your customer in order for them to make a choice. And once I click the order button right here, something great happens. I actually generate a file that acts like a receipt. This is a text file with the title of my restaurant, the time at which the order was made, and the full total of it all. Alright, so we start the application by simply showing the layout, the general layout that we're going to have at the end. This application actually uses one mainframe that englobes everything inside of it and all the widgets inside of it. And within that mainframe, at the top, we have the top banner frame that will have our top banner images. On the far left corner, we have the menu frame where all of our dishes are going to be displayed. In the middle, we actually have the display frame that's where our dishes are going to get displayed. And then in the far right, we're going to have the order frame where we're going to see our transaction and our order button. And now this is already a good guide to start putting widgets inside of our application. So I'm going to create a region for frames because we're going to be using quite a lot, and we're going to paste our main frames in here. So this is the section for frames. Over here, we see that our main frame has a width and height of 580. I chose that dimensioning because simply I want it to be looking like it's on an iPad. And then the rest of the frames are inside of my main frame. The top banner being on row 0 and column 0. The only particularity about this frame right here is that it has a column span of 3. From what you can see, the menu frame, display frame, and order frame are on row 1, but they're in different columns. So therefore, if the top banner is going to expand throughout my whole application, I have to have it a column span of 3 because we're going through 1, 2, and 3 frames. From what you can see, I put a padding of 3 and I made all of them sticky on north, south, east, and west. And this is all for the section frame. Now we're going to create the first section of our GUI application, which is the top banner. And from what you can see on my project, I have a folder filled with images, and the top banner contains 2. One would be the binary logo on the far left, and then my restaurant top banner that is distributed along the column span. And this restaurant is simply just a picture that I took from pexels.com. It's a restaurant that I would like to have, you know? So therefore, we're going to go into our styling and images section in our code, and we're going to create a new region. This region will be images, and that's where we're going to put all of our image objects that we're processing with ImageDK. And there you have it, our top banner images. So I basically access my images folder and I use my top banner logo and I resize it to 130 by 130. This is just my personal preference, but if you want to make it bigger or larger, it's up to you. And I use the same thing for my restaurant top banner being 800 and 130. When you resize your images, by the way, just make sure that the top banner is the same height as the binary logo, or else it's just going to look a little bit awkward. And these 2 images are going to go into a label, which we will add onto our new section being the top banner, which I will place right here. So under top banner section, what do we have in there? We have a logo label. Of course, it's on the top banner frame in the row 0 and column 0. And I made it sticky only on the west because I want my logo to be on the far left. We have the logo image object here that I associated with it, and the same thing goes with my restaurant banner label. My restaurant banner label being on column 1 and being sticky on north, south, east, and west. And we have the top banner image inside of it. And little explanation, why do I put a background here is, well, first of all, we're going to run our application and see what we have so far. And there you have it. It's beautiful. We can see our other frames below our top banner frame, and we see actually the two labels connecting together. And it looks really nice right now. So far, it's not too bad. It's really great. And here's the explanation why I put a background in there. You see this little outline on this image? You would have it also on this one. So how about I just take out the background for the restaurant banner image, and then I rerun the application. That's the problem, right? You see a bit of an outline. It's simply because the image is inside of a label, and this is simply displaying that we have a label in there. So to obviously bypass this doesn't look that good anymore. You put the same background on both of them. Now, this is an important aspect of code. Sometimes some things are not really for functionality, but they are very important for user experience. So keep that in mind. And that's the final result for the top banner so far. Now we move on to the next section of our GUI application, which is the menu section. In this section, you can notice that there's a label showing exactly what the item in the menu is, and another button on the side to display it so that you can show the client whatever they're ordering. And you notice something else also. They're not exactly in the same frame. Each one of them has a separate frame from what you can see on the color green right here on the screen. So this is actually something that I added just to add more style, and it also adds well whenever you when you select it for display. Now I'm going to show you guys that in functionality of the buttons display. When we get to those functions, you'll be able to see it there. But for now, it's just it doesn't really add that much. But then again, later on you'll see what I'm talking about. So we're going to go into our frames region right now, and we're going to add another section. So we have the section for our section frames, and now we're going to add our dish frames. So in our dish frames, I'm going to take the first one as a calamari dish frame. For example, this frame is in the menu frame, obviously, row 1, column 0, and it's sticky on north, south, east, and west. Now, all the other ones, row 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, are also sticky on north, south, east, and west. You can also notice that all of them have the same style, which is the dish frame.t frame that I'm actually going to add right now inside of our styling section, like so. There we have it. So our frames are in it and we're good to go. So we're going to run our application just to see what's happening right now. Interesting. I know my frames are there. You can actually see them by these tiny little lines, but they're not really showing up. Why is that? And that is simply because we need to add some grid configurations inside of our own frame, right? So I'm going to go fetch that into my already written code right here. And we're going to take the ones from menu frame. And I'm going to explain to you exactly what we're doing here. Put those in here. We're going to rerun our application. Okay, we see that they're getting there, right? Before this frame, we were only seeing the background of my menu frame that was a little bit darker. But now I know that all these frames are stacking up on one another, and they're actually taking the full span of it. Why is that? Is because on my menu frame, the column configure. So I put my column 0 to have a weight of 1, meaning that the extra space will be taken by that column, and all the other row configures have a weight of 1, meaning that they will all expand with whatever available space there is there, right? But then again, something really odd is happening here. I don't really see anything show up, anything expand, right? Because at the end of the day, we did put a frame of 800 by 580. Why is that? The reason for that is because I do not have any widgets inside of those frames just yet. So my dish frames are completely empty. And basically, if a frame doesn't have anything inside of it, it's just compressed, right? I've taught that in my previous videos. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to go back into our widget section, into right here, right below, and we're going to add our title. So in my menu region, just put and region over here. In my menu region, I will have a main menu label, which simply will have the text of menu shown in it. And it also has the menu label styling configuration, which I will go and fetch that right here. So and we're going to place it right below here. So I created a styling configuration for all the labels that are inside there displayed in the menu. And my top menu label is going to be a little bit different, simply just having a larger font, and it's anchored into the center. So if we run our application, what do we see? Okay, so it's getting back to life. We start seeing a little bit of action right here, and we see that it's taking some space, right? So we have the menu label here, and there is more grid configurations that needs to be done over here. I'll show you guys that a little bit later as we add more widgets. But now it's time to add the rest of the labels for our menu. And we will do that right now by simply putting all the labels in here. So we got, for example, a calamari dish label. They're all the same, by the way. They're all very similar. They just go on different different frames, right? So this one goes on the calamari dish frame, this one on the burger dish frame, salmon dish frame. You guys know that. I added a padding of 10 in all their sides. I made them all sticky on the west because I want these labels to be showing on the left, and they all use the same styling method. If we run this application, what do we look? Okay, so it's coming along, right? We see a little bit of life going on in here. So let's go ahead and place our buttons now. Our buttons widgets, we will place them right below it, and they don't have a command just yet because we haven't gotten there yet for the functionality of them all. But if we run our application, what do we see? There they are, our buttons, okay? And don't worry of this extending a little bit. We will fix that as we add widgets on this side, right? Because so far, everything is taking the size of 800 by 580. So this is how the widgets are reacting so far. But as you place more things, more elements inside of a frame, these will adjust, right? So now we are done with the menu section of our GUI application. We're gonna move on to the next one, which is the display section. In the display section, you have a top label that simply will show every element of the menu. And you also have two buttons down below. So you have the add button that will simply add something to your order transaction, and you have the remove button that will simply take something out of it. And that's pretty much it. That's what we have in there. So we're going to start off with the image objects. So we're going to go all the way to the top into our image and styling section, and we're going to add another section right there. Bam. So we have our menu images right here. My menu images are simply just a repeat. I sized them to 350 by 334. That's for the dishes. But there is a default image at first, is the display default, which is this one, love at first bite. And simply is because this one just runs at first when you start your application. So it doesn't need a title in front of it. But these ones like that are in the menu, like beach burger, empanadas, fried calamari. Oh, by the way, if you know what empanadas are, leave a comment down below and like this video. You have lived well and eaten well if you know what this is. So either way, so you got all these dishes that will also have a title right above. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's why they're a little bit smaller. So this one, the default image goes all the way to 360, and these ones need a little bit of space for the title. And that allows the GUI application to simply just keep up a certain size, and it just doesn't get bigger or larger as you select a dish from the default image. You'll see it once it behaves. So that's it. So we have our menu objects right here, our image objects. So we're going to create the labels that are simply just going to compose those, which we will do right now. So we're going to go right below our menu section. Actually, we're going to compress our menu section just so that our code does not get too overwhelming. That's our top banner menu. So now we're at the display section, and these are the widgets that are inside of it. So from what you can see here, the display label is from the display frame. Obviously, it's on row 0, column 0, sticky on north, south, east, and west, and it has a column span of 2. Obviously, that's so that the two buttons below it are contained within the same space as the label. So they have the same width, right? And that's why we have the column span of 2 for your label. And the image is the display default image right here. And the background, we set it to this hexadecimal color. It's pretty much how we did it for the top banner above, and simply our two buttons down below. So far, they do not have a command that is associated to them. We will get that into the functionality section of the video, but right now they're on row 1, column 0. They have a padding of 2, and they're sticky on all north, south, east, and west. So if we run our application, what do we get? There you go. So that's our first layout. And so from what you can see here, the disparity that we had with the spacing is actually getting smaller and smaller. Like I said, the more you add widgets into each section, the more this is just going to fix on its own, right? And that's pretty much it for your display section. We're going to move on to the order section where we're going to see our order transaction. And from what you can see right in front of you on the screen, the order section is composed of 4 labels and a button right at the bottom. So from top to bottom, we have the first label being the title of your order section. Very simple, like all the other sections. You have your order ID, which is going to be a way for you to differentiate from one customer to another, the different transactions that you've made during the day. You get the transaction label right in the middle. That can be confused with a frame, but believe it or not, this is a label, and I will develop on this one a little bit more on functionality. And right below it, you have the total label, which shows how much the customer owes you. And you also have the button at the bottom that will simply just confirm that the order can be done and will generate a receipt, which is going to be a text file. And just to continue, we're simply just going to go into our styling section, and we're going to add some styling configurations that are meant for this section. So we have one for the order total label and the order transaction label, which I won't develop much on it. It's simply just the font, the background, foreground, padding, and anchoring. You can pretty much just study that on your own, just for you to learn a little bit more. But this one, we will check the anchoring. That is going to be a little bit important more in functionality. So let's go ahead and put all of our widgets. We're going to go into the widgets section and go right below our menu section. And bam, we created a different region that is our order section right here. Excellent. So right here, the title label, we actually have a little bit of configuration here for the styling. Once again, I won't develop much on this one. And same thing for the ID label. Both of them are pretty much placed on the same frame, which is the order frame. Obviously, the title label is on row 0, column 0, sticky on east and west. Same thing, except for the row number is applied in the ID label, the order ID. So it's row 1, obviously order transaction on row 2, 3, and the buttons on row 4. Sorry about this. Actually, this is not meant to be here just yet. We will see that on the functionality. So if we run our application right now, what do we see? Oh, we see something strange here. So I actually want you to pause the video and think exactly what could be going wrong right now. All right, I assume you took some time to think about it. And what can we notice here? To begin with, we see that all the widgets are present and we can see up to what we define in them. So it's not that we're chopping off one word or anything whatsoever. We see the total and the $0, the order or ID, and the order right here on the button. So you can see all the widgets. And like I previously taught in my previous lessons about grid configurations, is that the largest widget will prevail, and that's what's going to pretty much give the space for all the other ones, right? So these seem pretty much to have the same size. But now inside of your order frame, what you can notice is that there is some extra space, right? We got extra space right here. And we know that all of these widgets are on column 0. And if you properly guessed that the only thing that you had to do here to expand this so that it takes the full space is to create a grid configuration for column 0 to have a weight of 1, well, you are right. Exactly. So that's exactly what you had to do. And from what we saw previously, we know that the transaction label is the largest one, right? We don't care about making this one the largest or this one or that one, or even the button, because that just doesn't add any functionality. But having a larger label means that we can actually choose more dishes and they can show up in our transaction. So that means that we're going to have to make row 0, 1, 2 having a weight of 1. So row 2, where this label is, will expand to have the rest of the space. So we're actually going to put that code into our grid configuration and we'll see what happens. So column configure 0, weight of 1, and row configure 2, weight of 1 over order frame. When I run my application, exactly. Now we see something that makes a lot more sense, and that is a little bit closer to what I was talking about last time. All right. Now that we have all of our widgets that compose our GUI application set up, how come do we still see some extra space assigned to places that make it look a little bit awkward, right? So we know that this is column 0, sorry about that. The first column of my main frame that contains all of my widgets and all of my other frames. So in my main frame, I have column 0, 1, and 2. However, we look at the weight configurations on this one and it's as if they're all equal. So it's as if by default, Tkinter is thinking that all of them have a weight of 1. And this would not actually happen if we didn't assign a size of 800 by 580 to my mainframe. So we notice that Tkinter notices that having this label and this button, this label right here with an image, these two buttons, and these labels aligned together like that, they're not enough to cover the whole 800 pixels. So it takes the extra pixels and distributes them evenly within each frame, which is within each section of my GUI application. So from what you can see, this extra chunk right here from the menu is pretty much the same as this extra chunk from my display frame. And by the way, that extra chunk divided by 2, you can see it right here on this side and on this side on my order frame. And you can actually see the extra chunk right here as well. It's just that these labels are centered instead of being anchored to the west. So the extra space is being distributed. So therefore, in our grid configuration for this GUI application within my mainframe, who deserves to have a weight of 1? That's what you need to ask yourself. So this one looks a little bit too large. This looks awkward. So I don't think this my column 0 should have a weight of 1. We can actually just simply tightly pack everything together here. Does this one need a weight of 1? Definitely not, because we simply just want to tightly pack our image and our buttons. This looks really awkward. This one is the one that could deserve more extra space, because we have an order transaction where we're going to have all of our labels in there and we're going to write everything in our order. We could give it a little bit more space so that this extra space that is being taken by all the other frames can be given to this one, and it's going to look more aesthetic. And by the way, we're also going to put a row configure of my row 1 so that it has a weight of 1. Simply just the safety. Is really not going to change that much, but it's just something that I like to assure myself. So it would make sense to, if we expand this window, that it's not my row 0 that takes the extra space, but the row below it, because it has more widgets in it. Right? So that's exactly what we're going to add over here. I'm going to paste the lines of code. So column configure 2, where our order frame is, has a weight of 1, and row configure 1 has a weight of 1, which is fine for my mainframe. So this means that when we run our application, there you have it. We have our final result. We notice that this one is tightly packed within its labels. This one is tightly packed, and all the extra pixels from our size of 800 were given to my order frame, and that actually looks really neat, and that's exactly what we wanted. And that's going to be it for today's video. We're going to have a part 2 video for functionality and the backend of this GUI application, simply just to keep things short. There's a lot of information in each video that we're showing, so it's just going to be easier for the viewers. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what you like and also what you dislike. I truly appreciate you guys watching my videos. Oh, and by the way, I also have an Instagram. You can see it right there in the screen. Thank you so much. Till next time.